By 1944, the Pacific War was a brutal slog, island by bloody island. America needed a knockout punch, a machine that could strike the heart of the Japanese Empire from an unreachable distance. The answer was the Boeing B-29 Superfortress. This was not just a bomber. It was the largest, most expensive, and most technologically advanced project of the entire war, costing more than the Manhattan Project and the Panama Canal combined. It was the world's first true strategic bomber, capable of flying higher, further, and faster than anything else. Its pressurized cabin allowed crews to fly in shirt sleeves at altitudes where no Japanese fighter could effectively reach them. Its remote-controlled gun turrets were a science fiction wonder. This is the story of the B-29, the technological behemoth that overcame incredible design hurdles, revolutionized bombing warfare, and delivered the two most destructive weapons ever conceived, forever changing the course of human history. The B-29 was the U.S. Army Air Force's direct response to the urgent, very long-range problem. The U.S. needed a bomber that could fly from distant bases in China. Boeing's design was enormous, incorporating three radical new features essential for this mission. Firstly, the B-29 was the first major production aircraft with a fully pressurized cabin. This allowed the crew to fly comfortably at over 30,000 feet, avoiding both the worst enemy flak and the freezing cold that miserably plagued B-17 crews. Secondly, its most revolutionary feature was its defensive firepower. Gunners controlled four centralized, remotely operated turrets using optical sights, effectively turning the B-29 into a coordinated, 360-degree, self-defending fortress. Thirdly, this massive machine required massive power. It used four powerful 18-cylinder Wright R-3350 duplex cyclone engines. These engines, while powerful, were absolutely plagued by overheating and caught fire so frequently during early testing that the B-29 earned a grim nickname, the Flaming Coffin. The B-29's complexity almost doomed the entire project. The desperate rush to deploy the plane led to manufacturing chaos, a frenzy dubbed the Battle of Kansas. Hundreds of design changes were being made while the planes were already on the assembly line. Engines overheated, landing gear collapsed, and electrical fires were rampant. General Henry Hap Arnold ordered that the bombers be pushed into service immediately, leading to a frenzy of emergency fixes on the production lines and maintenance centers. The sheer scale of the B-29 project demanded an unprecedented workforce explosion. Factories across the nation, especially Boeing's Wichita plant, hired hundreds of thousands of new workers, many of them women. The B-29 was the ultimate expression of American industrial mobilization, a costly, chaotic, yet ultimately successful effort to mass-produce the world's most complex weapon. The massive cost, over $3 billion in 1945 dollars, was justified by one thing alone: the unique strategic ability to reach Japan's home islands and strike the enemy where they were safest. The B-29 was initially ineffective when trying to bomb from high altitude. Strong winds, the jet stream, and persistent cloud cover made accurate strategic bombing impossible. The high-altitude missions were costly, and the engine fires continued to plague the airframe. Major General Curtis LeMay, the commander of the bombing campaign, decided on a radical, terrifying shift in strategy: low-altitude incendiary bombing. LeMay stripped the B-29s of much of their armor and defensive machine gun ammunition, loaded them exclusively with napalm and incendiary clusters, and ordered them to fly at low altitudes, around 5,000 to 9,000 feet. The goal was to destroy Japan's decentralized cottage industries that were supporting the war effort. The results were catastrophic. The raid on Tokyo on March 9 to 10, 1945, was the single most destructive air raid in human history. The incendiary bombs dropped on the dense wooden city created a firestorm that killed over 100,000 people in one night, more than the immediate casualties of either atomic bomb. The B-29 was now devastatingly effective, and the clock was ticking for the Empire of Japan. The true unspoken purpose for which the B-29 was ultimately destined was the atomic bomb. The B-29 was the only aircraft capable of reliably carrying the massive, complex payloads designed by the Manhattan Project. A special unit, the 509th Composite Group, was established and trained in absolute secrecy, practicing drop runs over the isolated Utah desert. Only 15 planes were modified for this unique mission, codenamed Silverplate. These B-29s had reinforced structures and specialized bomb bay modifications to handle the immense weight and complex arming sequence of the nuclear devices. The most famous of these B-29s was the Enola Gay, piloted by Colonel Paul Tibbets. On August 6, 1945, the Enola Gay dropped the Little Boy uranium bomb on Hiroshima. 3 days later, the Bockscar dropped the Fat Man plutonium bomb on Nagasaki. The B-29, originally an engineering challenge, became the delivery vehicle for the ultimate human destructive power, forever defining the end of World War II. It is often overlooked that even the aircraft that ended the war was still structurally flawed. Immediately after the war, Boeing finally implemented the crucial engine fix, a massive upgrade to the cooling system that stabilized the Wright R-3350s. The later model B-29s became reliable long-range platforms. The B-29's immediate legacy was immense. It was the centerpiece of the Strategic Air Command, SAC, during the early Cold War, acting as America's primary nuclear deterrent until the arrival of the B-52 Superfortress. The B-29 also flew extensive combat missions during the Korean War, dropping over 1 million tons of conventional bombs, once again proving its ability to sustain massive bombing campaigns. Its technology didn't just end the war, it defined the next era of aviation. The B-29's pressurized cabin and remote gun turret technology influenced nearly every bomber and passenger airliner built in the post-war era, from the B-47 Stratojet to the early commercial jets. The B-29 Superfortress is arguably the most significant singular aircraft in military history. It was a flawed masterpiece, a monumental industrial achievement, and the final decisive piece of the complex puzzle that was World War II. The B-29 was the machine that brought the war to a definitive, sudden, and devastating end. The technology it pioneered changed air travel forever, and the payloads it carried changed humanity forever. It represents the ultimate expression of American industrial might and strategic reach. The Superfortress was the machine that flew too high for the enemy, and by doing so, changed the entire trajectory of the 20th century. The story of the B-29 is the story of the end of the war and the beginning of the atomic age.